beware. These plants are a little more high maintenance and they are not for the beginner. Let's talk about the top 5. What's up, fellow plant enthusiasts? My name is Dylan Bain and this is Bain's Botanicals. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 most difficult plants to take care of. And I'm just talking about the top 5 that are average. I mean, there's a lot of exotic plants out there that might be a little more difficult, but I'm talking plants that you can pick up just about anywhere that maybe are just a little on the needier side or a lot on the needier side. So in order, I'm going to try to do these in order like I did with the other list. I would say number 5 would be prayer plants. This is a Goerpertia orbifolia. Now when I say prayer plants, I am talking about the plants of Calathea, Goerpertia, Stramanthe, Tenanthe, and Maranta. Those are all considered prayer plants or whatever. But some of them are called Calathea even though they're not Calathea. Like this one is often called Calathea, it's Goerpertia. These plants just tend to need a little bit higher humidity and you have to be careful about watering. Like you don't want them to be wet all the time, but you don't ever really want them to dry out either. So they're just a little bit trickier, but man, look at how pretty those leaves are. They also have to be watered with distilled water. They have to be. If you notice, this one has some brown edges on the leaves. That's not necessarily from watering because I use filtered water. This is from, well, letting it dry out. It actually needs to be watered. If you look, it's a little wilty, but it's fine. So number 4, I'm going to say, let's do this one. Anthuriums. This is an Anthurium something. I got this one kind of on an impulse buy at Ace Hardware in Lawrence because they were having a 50% off houseplant sale. Who can turn that down? Most of the Anthuriums I've ever had are the ones that you get at the grocery store that have the little colorful flower on them. And I think it's a combination of water and humidity, just like everything else. Most of the things that make a plant difficult involve water and humidity, just because those can be difficult things to replicate the same as nature. And some plants just aren't as resilient to being dry. This one looks okay though. I mean, I've had it for maybe a month and it's not looking too bad considering I've neglected it a little bit, but it does have a couple of little yellow leaves on the bottom. Number 3, I'm going to say Alocasias. This is an Alocasia. Wow, I'm so unprepared for this. I think it might be called green dragon, but obviously it has a scientific name. I don't know. I'll put them on the thing, I promise. Really pretty plants. And again, another impulse buy just because Alocasias are notorious for being a little more difficult. The combination of watering and humidity, they don't really like dry air that much, so especially in the winter time. And honestly, that's going to be the true test with some of these plants. Are they going to make it through the winter time with me? The Goerpertia did. It actually did fine. I just kept the humidifier going and I made sure that it stayed somewhat moist and it did fine. So I guess maybe I figured it out. I don't know. Some people might get some of these plants and be like, oh wow, these are so easy. How can you say these are hard? But in general, they are just a little more difficult. I can't just leave them alone like I could a philodendron or an epiprimnum and just walk away from them for a week and come back and the plant's going to be just as it was. Number 2, I don't have for good reason. Number 2 is going to be something called a Homalomena. Homalomenas are kind of new to the houseplant market. There's like a Homalomena Selby, there's a Homalomena green jewel or something. They're very beautiful plants, and I've had several because I really wanted to keep them alive, but they are very needy when it comes to watering. They can never dry out ever. Like, don't ever let them dry out because they'll immediately wilt. And unlike a peace lily, you know, when a peace lily wilts, you're like, well, whatever, you know, it just needs to be watered. But Homalomenas don't really bounce back that well. They will, but they're just not very forgiving about it. And another problem with them is that they get spider mites pretty easily. I mean, if you let them dry out and they wilt, there's a good chance you're probably just going to get spider mites. Just, I don't know why it is. They just show up out of nowhere, and it's not fun. So I've thrown out probably, at least 3 different Homalomenas, just trying to keep them alive, and I just can't walk away from them, and you know, they just die. So yes, luckily you don't see those very much, I guess, so you maybe won't be too tempted. Number 1, I debated this because a quick dishonorable mention before I reveal number 1. English ivy, I don't know why all the books say it's so easy, because it's not. Like, you let it dry out and the leaves turn to dust, like they just crumble and wither away, and they get spider mites if you look at them the wrong way. I've had a ton of English ivy too. I've had probably 10 or 15 plants because there's so many different varieties, and they're really pretty, you know, all the leaves are pretty, but they just get spider mites. And you can shower them, you know, if you shower them every time you water them, and if you stay consistent with your watering, then you're probably going to be fine. And they are easy to care for, but don't leave them for a week and a half or something, because they're either going to dry out and die, or they'll be infested with spider mites. So number 1, in my opinion, is ferns. And as you can see, I don't have any ferns because ferns die, at least with me. Ferns need so much humidity, and there are some ferns that are a little more tolerant than others, but in general, ferns grow in the understory of the forest. So like on the forest floor where there's not a lot of light, and it's usually very moist and humid and kind of cool. That's a really hard thing to replicate in your house. You can do it in a terrarium, but I think most people will agree that it doesn't take much for ferns to turn brown and crumble, especially some of the daintier ones, like a maidenhair fern. I don't even see how stores sell them because their leaves are so paper thin and fine. Of course they're gonna, you know, turn to dust when you don't have high enough humidity. And I'm talking like 70 or 80% humidity, which you can't really have in your house without causing some problems. So yeah, ferns are my number 1. They're so beautiful. They're a really old type of plant when you're talking about like evolution, and there's so much variety. They're so neat, but I just can't do it, and I've spent enough money killing ferns that I'm not going to do it anymore. What do you guys think? What in your opinion is the hardest plant to take care of? I know some people will say succulents. We're going to talk about succulents. They're actually not that hard, I promise. But yeah, let me know what you think the hardest plant is. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm going to get some more videos out for you guys. And yeah, thank you for the support. I love interacting with you. I love seeing you at work. And yeah, hope to see more of you. Thank you.